Hello everyone, this is yet another episode of Career Talks, and today we'll be talking to Dr. Maciej Koczerga. Dr. Maciej Koczerga is a business consultant who stepped out from academia after 13 years of working as an assistant professor at the University of Economics and Business in Poznan to pursue his own family business. And in this episode, we'll be talking about Maciej's personal story, why he decided to leave academia after so many years, and how the academic school of business compares to the business school of life. Let's get going. Thank you so much, Maciej, for joining us today. Great to have you.
I'm happy to be here.
We are looking forward to look into your career story. So could you please tell us a little bit about your background?
So my core education is international economics. The major was called international economic relations, but it's in fact international economics. The last semester of my master's studies, I was in Sweden as one of the first Erasmus students from my institution. It was the last semester of my studies and was the time when I seriously started to think, what am I going to do with my life? Then I discovered, well, that maybe that's the institution, because it was international business school. Maybe that's the institution I would like to be, okay? The institution was small. It wasn't like, one of those old traditional universities, which I dislike. The institution was small, it was new, modern, people were friendly, nice. So I thought that would be a lovely place to work. But it didn't happen. I didn't manage. It was a few years before Poland's accession to the EU, so it was quite natural that there will be problems. I came back to Poland, and again was wondering, what should I do with my life? The problem, the extra problem in my case was that I experienced serious health problems. So I needed some flexibility in terms of work arrangements. The point is, it was the period of extreme unemployment among young people in Poland. So some of my colleagues, some of my classmates in Poland, they were looking for jobs like 1.5 years or maybe 2 years. It was a disaster. So I came to the conclusion that if I can't work in this international business school in Sweden, well, maybe I should try to find something here in Poland. And I have found a professor that I really liked and appreciated, and asked him if he needed a doctoral student. He said yes. That's how I became a doctoral student. This time I focused on the area of business management / marketing / entrepreneurship, because I was interested in those things, and they had direct application to what is happening outside academia. Because when I was a master's student, I was also thinking that maybe being a doctoral student in the area of economics is something that I would like. But when I found out during my studies, when I talked to some professor, what actually they are doing, how abstract this work is, then I gave up. No, it wasn't a good option. I don't want to write some papers that nobody reads, to create some econometric models that are needed for probably no one, just to advance your career. So I said no. I said no, I was more into business management. So I became a doctoral student. It wasn't an international business school, but I was in this lucky situation that more and more foreign students came to this Polish institution. And that's how I started teaching them. There were even periods when 100% of my teaching load was educating foreign students. So that's how I did it. In fact, I wasn't in Sweden in the international business school, but I was in Poland and teaching to international students. Then after 3.5 years, I have defended my doctoral thesis, dissertation, and got a position at the university. And then I spent 13 years. So I spent in this, after my graduation, I spent 17 years doing research and teaching students. And finally, in the last year, my contract has expired. They were not interested in prolonging this. The work arrangements, well, maybe to be more precise, they were interested in prolonging the contract, but on such terms that I couldn't accept. So I started to think about something else. Which can be a challenge after spending so much time in academic institution. But I was in this lucky situation. I am in this lucky situation that there is a business in my family. So that was a natural solution that I would join it. So now I'm there. But also 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, almost, I found an institution just in the town where my family lives. They were expanding this business education. They wanted to internationalize. So I came to the conclusion that I could contribute. I can help them with this. The institution is nice. It's relatively, I mean, especially this business part of this is relatively new, small. People are friendly, so nice workplace. So I'm in the academic institution, but not on such terms as previously. Now I treat it as, because my contract is for 1 year and renewed each year, and so I treat it as a project in which I participate. Okay, you have to know that because of my background, I tend to look at things in business terms. I mean, I see projects, I see assets and liabilities, I see strategy or no strategy. So this is a project in a bundle of projects that I'm interested in. So to cut a long story short, that's my background, that's my story.
Ontology of Value, we help professionals with developing their potential, building value, and navigating towards their dream careers. We offer intensive career orientation courses combining self-discovery with practical information about the job market. We also work on our own educational materials such as books and self-navigation manuals. Our new tool, the Ontology of Value test, will help you discover what your natural way of creating value in the job market is and which working environment fits you best. If you'd like to stay in touch with us and receive monthly updates, please subscribe to the newsletter. Okay, fantastic. And can I ask what type of business is in your family?
Yeah, dental clinic.
Dental clinic?
Yeah.
I have no idea how to run a dental clinic.
You don't have to know it. Quite seldom to treat to treat dental clinic as a business if it's run by dentists, because they don't understand business rules. So that is my contribution. That's how I can help.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you have customers, you have a market, you have costs and revenues. You have to calculate everything. You have people to employ. You have to pay those people. Everything needs arrangement. It should be treated as a business, and we expect profitability out of business. So that's how I contribute to the development of it.
I can tell you what is the attitude of my dentist in the corridor, just where you like sit waiting for the visit. She put like big bowl of candies, so it produces the problem to then solve it.
It's also, yes, it's very delicate issue. This business is quite special because it's a delicate issue. We are on the edge of ethics,
I guess, but I kind of, falls into my sense of humor. So I'm like, I like that, she's just very entrepreneurial.
Yes, yeah.
So if I understood correctly, you were in and then out and then back into academia, right? So
yes, but this time on different terms. Even my attitude has changed after leaving the first institution. My attitude even has changed. I often see. I talk to a number of colleagues of mine that they treated. I guess it's typical for academia that people treat it as a kind of mission. I don't know. They don't think about this job as a job.
Yep.
They think about it as a kind of vocation. Very strange. They create identity around this.
Yeah.
And that's why it's very hard for them to change the job, to leave the institution, even if the work atmosphere is horrible, even if the pay is very low, even if there are opportunities outside this institution. I often repeat, there is life outside academia.
Right. Well, this is a complicated issue because also I think in every system, like if you go to the army, like there's some some way of thinking to rationalize all the pain you have to go through, because it's not a normal job that like exploits your body and mind in a normal way. It's just completely exploited to the end, right? Like you have to give away like 100% of yourself to the job. And actually I think the only way to rationalize it is to develop some sort of philosophy around it. And I also think academia is a form of a monastery where you have those you have this indoctrination that this is how you're supposed to live
exactly
life.
You are perfectly right. I wouldn't even say a monastery. It's a cult. Yeah. And it's very difficult to live a cult without external help. So yeah. I appreciate much what you are doing, because many people would like to live, but few manage to live. Okay, many are called, but few are chosen, I would even say. Yeah. Yes, people are just indoctrinated very much into thinking that this is the place. There is no better place in the world, in the whole world, than this institution. You have to stay here. You have to suffer, even if this job requires using your personal savings to pay for conferences, to do research. people accept it,
Right.
suffer and accept it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so can I ask you a little bit more about your long-term plan? So how do you see yourself right now? Is there any like specific career plan that you have for yourself, or like long-term goal, or you
Okay.
just let it be?
Yeah, it's I started those doctoral studies because I had some deeper meaning in this. I wanted to improve the business world a bit, because what I observe, how companies are managed, what workplaces look like, what people say about those places, about their bosses, about leadership. I thought that maybe I could contribute somehow to improving this, and business education is part of this mission, which doesn't need to be realized in academia.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, okay, I understand. So, well, but it's hard to predict the job market in the next 10, 20 years. So I guess it's better to keep open ends, right? It's
Good point. Good point. If you can't predict something, try to create it. That's my motto.
definitely, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's like coming back to this, like the rules for success in academia. I was obviously thinking about it a lot for years. And I think those who eventually become successful kind of treat academia as a job. Like, but there is a difference between what they say and how they behave, and what their agenda is. So because there is this jargon and this way of speaking in academic system that we all want to contribute, and this contribute word comes back a lot. And it's like a mission, initiative is a very popular word. And there is this whole way of wording yourself to basically give an impression that like all you do is contribute to the society. But in fact, those who eventually get the best positions are those who have very good, like very well thought of plan of what they do and why. And always think about the reward before they start a project. So play this game of risks and rewards and play it well, and always like try to maximize their output and their like prolong their CV as much as possible. So like they use the same jargon, but they really think about their own business. They mind their own business. And once you treat it like this, yes, you can get far. But the problem is most of us are not naturally like thinking this way. So it takes us years before we learn it, and usually it's already too late because we are just falling behind in terms of publications, and then we're kind of out of the system. So that's, I think, the problem as well. And I see it everywhere actually, that there is, usually when you enter a new tribe in the job market, usually there is some way of wording yourself, some way of, selling what you're doing. But people who get far really like usually do something a little bit different than they say. So they use the same jargon, but in fact they have a very well thought of plan and know precisely what they're doing and why. Like if you go to business circles, maybe you agree with me here that when you go to like startup world, let's say, then everyone is saying about innovation, like we just want to innovate, we want to disrupt, blah blah blah. And actually people who make it usually just think about, okay, where is my business going to grow the fastest, where can I get the most profit. They really think for themselves and their company. They just use this jargon just as a rhetorics, but but they think
It's a way of selling. That's
yeah,
what I call it.
yeah. Yeah, kind of interesting because I got interested a little bit in this NFT space because it's booming right now, and I wanted to know what this is all about. And when you enter, it's like the same. Like this is just a subculture, and they have their way of speaking to each other, because to actually get to good projects and get a chance to get into the project early, you have to get whitelisted for projects, and to get whitelisted, you have to be active in the communities. So, you know, people literally enter a Discord channel and say in the channel, I love this community, like, hello fam. And they just say it after like 10 seconds of being there. Just, it's so funny. And yeah, there's again, the same, like, there is some way of speaking to each other, but in fact, the agenda is different. Like everyone just trying to maximize their own gains. But
Yeah.
the people who play the game best win the most. So, yeah.
Yes, but well, many people in such circumstances are trying to self-promote, but at the end of the day, we should just have in mind what they are offering, what is behind all this shameless self-promotion, I would say. What do they have to offer? What do they represent? Things like this. I mean, if you are in business long enough, you know, you always know that you shouldn't trust the first impression and trust what people are saying, because they are saying different things.
Yeah. Now looking back, I was very naive when I was finishing grad school. I was really, I was just naive. I could be conned into things easily, into just bad deals. It's a long story, but I was wrecked with my investments also because I just didn't know whom to listen to, and I was listening to other people's advice way too much. It's just that, you know, you think you're smart because you have all these good grades at school, and then you study so much. People always tell you you're smart, but then you go out to the real world and it's just all your intelligence
it's
doesn't work.
another stage of learning. When you leave the school, you're still learning. You're learning many years.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so a question I have for you is, what do you think is a benefit of being a PhD in business? What is the added value, and what do you think your academic career helped you with?
You know, this is the question that I explored when I was a doctoral student. What do PhDs in business do in other countries? There wasn't much. Now there is a lot of information about this, about post-academic careers on the internet. Then it wasn't. For instance, you want to be a business consultant, that can help. That can help. If you sometimes, you know, in some it depends on the environment. Naturally, in Germany, it's a degree that is much appreciated in business and in politics. So you have some broader knowledge about business. That's the benefit of being a PhD in business, broadly speaking. And you know, the problem with PhDs is that people don't see the goal. I mean, they start doctoral studies for strange reasons. Because they feel, I will tell you one of some of those strange reasons. Because, for instance, they feel flattered that some professor offered them being a doctoral student. Because they would like to prolong this being at school as a student. Because they don't know what to do with life. And it's not a good reason to start doctoral studies, because in most disciplines, PhD is just needed for starting a career, starting professional life in academia. That's it. And if working in academia is not part of your plan, then forget it. Then forget it, because it's too much work. And I talked to a number of people, a number of doctoral students, also young professors, young lecturers. Everybody at some stage is experiencing mental health problems. this feeling guilty that you are not writing, that you are having Christmas with your family and you should be doing something else. This is just unbearable, unbearable. Yeah, okay. In the long term, it's very, very destructive because, you know, it should be fun. It should be creative work, but it turns out that it's not, that it's quite mundane, that you have to produce papers for journals that have more authors than readers.
Yeah, oh yes. Yeah, I can tell. Yeah, I fully agree with this. And it's kind of also unfair in a way that actually the most niche areas of science that are actually the most specialistic and require the most in-depth knowledge usually are also represented by the fewest people, so they have the fewest attention and the fewest citations. And those that are quite mainstream, where you have this consortia doing like very kind of simple type of statistics on the big data, producing all these like big, you know, combined plots, like let's say comparing cohorts in different countries, usually land in Nature because it's like big data set, right? So it's actually a very simple statistic to make, but it like looks impressive because of the absolute numbers. So it's kind of, I was also frustrated by that when being in academia, because my topic was very niche and only few people in the world could even understand my papers. And even in my own lab, like in my own lab, when I was presenting next to the whiteboard at the lab meeting, only my supervisor knew what I was talking about and other PhDs didn't. I was really frustrated. I had nobody to talk to. And yeah, I could see those people just producing simple plots and just putting them high in like highly cited journals and getting thousands of citations. This system is just not promoting originality.
Yes, yeah, the system has its own rules, and we should, you know, because again, I'm saying this because of my background. We should calculate what pays off, what doesn't. You can be the best Hungarian cinematography specialist in the world. You can be #1 in this area, but still be unemployed.
I think we have quite convergent views. I like to look at it at like a glass half full rather than half empty, because I think wherever you go, it's like hard school of life. And the question is if you can take your lessons, because wherever you go, when you go to a corporation, let's say, and you're this like young idealists, you can also soon discover that it's not necessarily the brightest and the most hardworking who are getting promoted the fastest, but those who have best connections and spend the time smoking outside in the lunchtime with the right people. And I hear it a lot from corporate people that, you know, the rules for promotion are different from the official official rules. And it's even in the army, you would think that the best officer gets promoted like up and up until the general level. But like people tell me it's the exact opposite, because everyone wants to have good people in their unit, so they send the bad people up. So people who end on top are the like losers who just nobody wanted to have in their own team. So it's the other way around. So yeah, I mean, if you're an idealist and you think that, you know, hard work is directly proportional to your like social status, like you will be disappointed almost anywhere. It's just always that there are some other rules that are unwritten and you have to learn about them. And wherever in academia or not, I think you will have to learn the hard way. In startups, I also know brilliant people who never successfully pulled off the startup because they were always in the wrong place at the wrong time, or they didn't have the right business partner, or they didn't have stamina, they didn't have like this mental corpus, because you have to be really strong on the inside to pull it off, and they didn't really have that. They were crashing on their mind. So it's, yeah, it's really, I just really look at it as, you know, wherever we go there is some hardship, and and rules of a game that one needs to learn. That's how I look at it.
Yes, everywhere we go, there are some challenges, but we shouldn't think about one job for life. I mean, we should have as many skills as possible,
yeah,
and find application for those skills in different projects. That's my approach.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what kind of advice would you give to young scientists today? Let's assume that since people watching this channel usually already took a decision to start a grad school, so what type of advice would you have for them? Let's say for a first year student.
First, if you feel unhappy and disappointed with your doctoral studies, just dare to make a decision and find something better. If you are frustrated during your doctoral studies and you are still in this, remember that after you get a PhD, not much will change. Because if you stay in academia, you will experience something very, very similar. The good thing is that now you are doctor someone. The third advice would be never lose contact with reality. And you need to balance how much you contribute, how much you get, your inputs and outputs. Because it may turn out that you will find better application for your skills and competencies somewhere else. Yeah. Be open to changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if I could add something to this, like I fully agree with you that it's all about building skills. And if I could turn back time and I started my grad school again, I probably, so I was like really tuned, I was like 100% set on the vision of becoming a professor. So I basically had a repository where I was keeping like all my like manuscripts and manuscripts that are in production, those that are planned, and I was just keeping track like weekly of where I am with these manuscripts to trying to maximize my scientific output. But if I was about to do it one more time, I would probably focus on building skills. I would be like, okay, these are my programming skills. These are the packages I already know. These are the algorithms I know. And these are my writing skills. This is what my weaknesses are. What type of text I can like safely assume that I can write, and basically I would just make different folders. I would make folders for skills, not for manuscripts, and I would be tracking on a weekly basis and also I would be accumulating my social capital areas. So I would just make a list of, okay, who do I know, in what capacity, where from, what do these people know, what they can help me with, and shall I call them for Christmas, and send them Christmas wishes. Like this year, I spent 8 to 12 hours just calling people with Christmas wishes, and like I didn't like sell anything, but I got a few invitations for paid gigs. I got a few clients out of it. I got a lot of opportunity only because I was the only person who was calling, So this is, if you do this, yeah, if you do this over a period of time, start early and build this database and build this network and like feed it, like cater to it. And for instance, like call every year, just remind them of yourself, keep on talking, keep in touch. Then after a few years, you have really good, really strong network. And it seems like to be a detail, but people, even if you have like really limited contact, but it's for a long time, let's say 10 years, they classify you as a friend, and then they will help you if you need it. So I mean, I would just do it, and plus it's pleasant, right? It's good to have social contacts anyway. So it's even for yourself, for your well-being, it's good to talk more and just be systematic about it. So I think if I could turn back time, I would spend more time on that and less time on thinking, okay, do I have a chance to get into neuroimage journal with this, or maybe I should go to PLOS biology, or maybe so I would strategize, but in a different way. Yeah.
Well, social capital is important. And unfortunately, in academia, is considered a waste of time.
Yeah, and such a mistake. Such a mistake. Is there anything you would like to add to this conversation? Some other?
I think I have taken part in this interview because, you know, this is the information I was looking for when I was a doctoral student. And sometimes I see young people who start doctoral studies, but they don't know what is ahead of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't really know how this functions and what they are getting into. That's why I have taken part in this, because I was looking for this information, and in the time when I needed this, there wasn't any.
Right. Yeah. I think now it's changing. Now, actually, grad schools also care more and organize more career events, and there are more facilities for PhDs, PhD students and graduates to help them transition. So it's no longer stigmatized. Like a few years back, I think it was still stigmatized as a failure, and now I don't think it's like that anymore. I think now it's perfectly fine to go to the world with your knowledge and just do something else. So that's great. But thank you so much for visiting us today. Thank you for your career story. It was great to hear. And I mean, I only like have warm feelings about PhDs going to business. I mean, I myself chose this path, and I think there are many values that a PhD gives in business. I mean, you can start off as a like a naive, idealistic person on the one hand, but on the other hand, you are the hard worker and independent, and that's what matters in business. I think that's what helps me a lot. I had to arrange my day and my projects before, and now I have to do the same. And I think I couldn't do it if I was just employed somewhere before and told what to do. So I think in that sense, mentality wise, I think it helped to prepare me for this type of job. Yeah.
This is, you know, people in, when you work in some corporate environment, do you think it's easier to leave the corporation than leave academia? Not necessarily. I would even say it can be harder, because, you know, when you work in a corporation, you have this very narrow area of responsibility.
Yeah.
You don't see things broadly. So.
And you're also catered, you're also like taken care of, you have benefits, you have a career path planned many years ahead, and you can just, like many corporations, they assume that you can stay there forever if you like. So it's like being like under an umbrella and deciding if you want to just forget about your comfort zone and just go somewhere else, or maybe you want to just stay in comfort zone. And actually, yeah, today also many people just choose to stay in a comfort zone because there are many other ways after working hours to do something adventurous, like this, like NFT space mentioned before. Many people there are people who have day jobs, like well-paid jobs, but after the working hours they want to feel this, like, you know, thrill of adventure when they buy into some speculative assets and trade them, and want to just score a unicorn project, like a blue chip project, and win 1 million with it. And they basically, that's their thrill, that's their adventure, and they are perfectly fine just working as some CEO or manager of like 1,000, you know, headcount company, and after working hours trading some images with frogs on it. And like I meet these people often. I'm like, why do you do this? You know, you have like a serious job and 3 kids at home, and you trade like a dog for a frog. And yeah, it's like completely crazy to me, but but they spend their nights doing this, and they are so you know, emotional about it. So yeah, there are also different ways for people today to feel, you know, they are on an adventure. So some of them decide to never like leave their safe position because they look for adrenaline somewhere else. So as weird as it sounds, you would have to see it yourself to really feel like, you know, how that is possible, but yeah, it's hard to explain. You should just buy one NFT once and enter some of these Discord channels to see how it all works, and people really get crazy.
Yes, well, I think I can understand the emotion. I'm into capital markets, so this can be a kind of, you know, this speculative addiction.
Right. Yeah.
It raises adrenaline level, and you know, something is happening. It can be addictive.
Right. Yeah. Oh, it can be. Okay, great. Thank you so much once again. And without further ado, I would just say thank you guys for watching this episode. All the information about Maciej's work and his bio you can find in the description. If you have any other questions, you can find him on LinkedIn. And thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.
Yeah.